When I found out my entire family had a group chat specifically to plan events without me, I thought it was some kind of cruel prank. It wasn't. They'd been secretly organizing birthdays, weddings, even funerals. And I wasn't invited to a single one. I was literally being erased in real time by my own blood. My name's Alana. I belong to a family that pretends we're better than everyone else. Polished smiles, country club brunches, and enough passive aggression to fuel a sitcom. But let me tell you something. I didn't always know how fake it all was. I grew up thinking love had rules, that if you were the quiet one, the helpful one, the one who never made a scene, you'd be safe, accepted. Spoiler alert, I was dead wrong. It started small. A cousin's wedding, no invite. When I asked about it, my aunt said, "Oh, we figured you'd be too busy with whatever it is you do these days." Mind you, I was running my own business at that time, an online design studio that had just hit six figures. But to them, it wasn't real enough. Not like being an accountant or married to a lawyer. To them, I was still that weird girl who always had a sketchbook and no boyfriend. But what they didn't know was that I had started playing a very different game. Quietly, strategically. They say success is the best revenge. I didn't set out to get even. I just didn't want to feel disposable anymore. So instead of crying over another skipped invitation, I doubled down. On myself, on my craft. I didn't beg to be included. I built. Still, every time there was a birthday dinner or a baby shower and I saw photos online, my stomach would sink. And yet, every time I asked them about it, I got the same dismissive tone. "Oh, we just assumed you'd be too busy." "You're always working, Alana." "We didn't think you'd want to come." But here's the truth they didn't want to admit. They didn't think I was worth inviting. They couldn't put me in a box. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. I didn't brag about my job at the dinner table like the rest of them. I was too quiet, too independent, too unpredictable. Then came the final straw. My mom hosted a family-only Thanksgiving dinner. That's literally what the invite said. Family only. And guess who didn't get the invite? That's right, me. I only found out because my coworker tagged me in a meme and I noticed my entire extended family sitting around the same dining table in the background of someone's Instagram story. My mom, my siblings, my cousins, all grinning like they hadn't just sliced me out of their lives like pie crust. I stared at that photo for a long time, not because I wanted to cry, but because I realized something. I'd been letting these people define my worth, and they hadn't earned that power. So I decided I'd never let them see me sweat again. They thought I was the odd one out? Fine. I'd be the outlier, the one they never saw coming. Because what they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that while they were playing house and sipping wine at potlucks, I had been stacking wins behind the scenes. Big wins. My design studio had blown up. I had major influencers, startups, and even a few low-key celebrities hiring me for branding work. Then I got into digital assets, NFTs, crypto, brand licensing, you name it. I had multiple revenue streams and zero debt. I bought a condo in cash, invested in 2 rental properties. And my net worth? Let's just say it left 6 figures in the dust a long time ago. Still, I never said a word. No bragging, no flashy posts, just quiet power. And when they'd accidentally run into me at the grocery store or some public event, they'd hit me with the fake smiles. "Oh, wow, Alana, you're still doing that art thing?" "Yup, still doing that art thing." While you guys fight over who's paying the bar tab at Applebee's, but I kept my mouth shut. Until one day I got a call from my cousin Hannah. Her voice was syrupy sweet. "Hey, Alana, so random question. You're good with money stuff, right? Our church is doing a charity gala and we're looking for a silent sponsor. You know, someone classy and generous, but low-key." I knew exactly what this was. She didn't want me. She wanted my money. I could have hung up right there. But instead, I smiled and said, "Of course, send me the info." 2 weeks later, I sent in a donation large enough to cover the entire event. Quietly, anonymously. And the night of the gala, while they all clinked glasses and patted each other on the back for saving the community, they had no idea who paid for the caterer, the venue, or the fancy live band. Until the final speech. The host took the stage and said, "We want to give a special thanks to our top donor, without whom none of this would be possible, Alana Morris." The room went silent, and I stood up, in a red velvet dress, hair done, confident, smiling. And I waved. You could have heard a pin drop. And that was only the beginning. The look on their faces when they realized I was the one funding the entire event, absolutely priceless. My Aunt Valerie actually gasped, like she physically couldn't process that I, the quiet one, the one they forgot to invite to everything, had just bankrolled a gala that they were all clapping themselves on the back for. And I didn't even have to say anything. That was the best part. I just smiled, nodded at the MC, and sat back down like it was nothing. From across the room, I caught my mom's eye. Her smile was frozen, too tight. She blinked slowly as if her brain was buffering. Later that night, I got a text. Mom, why didn't you tell me you were involved in this? I stared at the message. My thumb hovered over the keyboard for a second before I replied, me. You said it was a family-only event? I didn't want to intrude? No response. The next day, I was suddenly invited to my cousin Luke's engagement dinner. Funny how that works, right? Now remember, this is the same family that hadn't included me in any events for years. And now suddenly, I was being welcomed with open arms. But here's the kicker. They didn't just want me at the dinner. They asked if I could help pay for the venue deposit. Of course, they didn't say it outright. My Uncle Dan said it in his usual roundabout way. You know, we're just a little tight right now, what with Luke starting his residency and all. Would be so helpful if someone with, a flexible schedule and some success could pitch in. Translation. You've got money. We want some. I could have gone off. I could have called out every backhanded comment, every event I was snubbed from, every time they made me feel like I was less than. But instead, I played it cool. I said I'd think about it, and that's when the messages started coming in from all angles. Family I hadn't heard from in years suddenly remembered I existed. Hey, just checking in. We should totally catch up. We're organizing a little brunch next month. Love to see you there. My daughter's starting a graphic design major. Maybe you could give her some tips. Tips? From the same people who told me I was wasting my life drawing on a tablet? Wild. But instead of getting bitter, I got strategic. I showed up to that engagement dinner, not to rub anything in their faces, but because I wanted them to see what they threw away. I pulled up in a car I didn't post about, wore a dress that didn't scream designer but whispered elegance, and I walked in like I belonged there, because I did. The room went quiet when I entered. My Uncle Dan's jaw literally dropped. My cousin Luke did a double take. And my mom? She stood up a little straighter and suddenly remembered how to smile at me again. Everyone wanted to know what I'd been up to, but I kept it simple. Still running the studio, staying busy. They wanted more. They were hungry for details. I could feel it. But I gave them nothing. No flexing, no figures. Just calm, composed success. And the more quiet I was, the louder they needed to fill in the blanks. By the time dessert rolled around, people were whispering. I caught bits of it. I heard she's got a condo downtown. I think she invested in crypto or something. Someone said she donated like thousands to that gala. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Luke stood up to make a toast and said, "We just want to thank everyone for being here tonight, especially Alana, who's not only joining us, but who generously offered to help cover tonight's event." I hadn't agreed to that, not publicly, so I stood up, clinked my glass gently, smiled, and said, "Actually, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I didn't agree to fund anything, but I'm happy to be here and celebrate with you all. As a guest." You could feel the temperature drop in the room. Luke stammered. My Uncle Dan looked like someone had slapped him across the face with a fish. And my mom? She was avoiding eye contact altogether. I sat back down and sipped my wine. See, they had assumed that now that they needed me, I'd jump at the chance to be included again, like some stray dog begging to be let back in the house. But I had my own house now, and it was bigger, better, and paid off in full. After the dinner, my cousin Hannah pulled me aside. "I just don't get it," she said. "Why are you being so cold? Your family." I tilted my head. "Family? You mean the people who excluded me from everything for the last 5 years?" "That wasn't personal," she argued. "It was just, well, you were always off doing your own thing." I smiled. Exactly, and it paid off. I walked away before she could reply. That night, I sat in my penthouse condo, watching the city lights through floor to ceiling windows, sipping tea from a mug that cost more than their entire engagement cake. And I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. I didn't need their validation anymore, but oh, I wasn't done yet, because if they thought the engagement dinner was shocking, wait until they saw what I'd planned for the next family event. A month after that engagement dinner stunt, I got a Facebook message from my mom. Not a call, not a text, a Facebook message. That's how low effort they still were. Hey, sweetie, just wanted to let you know we're doing a big family reunion this year at the lake house. Everyone's invited. I stared at the message and actually laughed out loud. Everyone was invited? Since when? Then she followed it up with, would love if you could help with planning, or maybe sponsor a few things. There it was. Again, I mean, did they even hear themselves anymore? It was never, we miss you, we were wrong. It was always, you're useful now, so we'll tolerate you, on our terms. But this time, I didn't ignore it. I didn't stay silent. I said, sure, I'll come, and I'll take care of everything. Her reply came back in less than a minute. Oh, wow, thank you. That's amazing. You've always been so generous, Alana. They had no clue what I was really planning. See, this reunion wasn't just about seeing them again. It was going to be the final performance. The moment where every smug remark, every whispered comment, every time I'd been overlooked or pitied or ignored, was going to collapse under the weight of the truth. I booked the entire lakefront property, not just the main house, every single cabin. I upgraded the catering to a private chef flown in from Napa Valley, replaced the basic picnic tables with custom outdoor dining setups, professional lighting, a live jazz quartet, full bar, personalized gift bags. You name it, I did it. But here's the kicker. I made no announcement, no credit, no big speech. I let them think it was all just happening. Day of the reunion, I arrived early. Oversized sunglasses, cream-colored dress, minimalist gold jewelry. Simple elegance, wealth without screaming it. Because real wealth doesn't need to shout, it just walks in and changes the atmosphere. As people started arriving, I watched their heads swivel. My cousin's wife actually said, "Wait, is this even the same lake house?" People were buzzing. Did the owners renovate? Is this a wedding or a reunion? Who paid for all this? Then came the murmurs. Was it Uncle Rick? Maybe Grandpa left a fund or something? Did Luke's fiancé win the lottery? Finally, my mom cornered me near the drink station. She had this weird fake casual tone. So, this is amazing, Alana. You've really outdone yourself. Oh, I said, sipping my cucumber-infused sparkling water. I thought you were organizing it. She blinked. Well, yes, but, I mean, obviously you did most of this, right? I smiled. I said I'd take care of everything. I never said I'd explain it. And I walked away. The jazz band kicked in. The catered food was melting people's minds. My cousin's kid whispered to her mom, "This is better than Disney World," but I wasn't done yet. Just before dinner, while everyone was seated at long tables beneath fairy lights and mason jar candles, the host, a professional MC I'd hired, got on the mic. Before we dig into this incredible meal, we'd like to recognize the person who made this entire evening possible. The person who planned, organized, and funded every part of this weekend. I looked up slowly as he said my name. Alana Morris. And in that instant, you could feel the shift in the air. Heads snapped toward me, mouths fell open. My Uncle Dan dropped his fork. My cousin Hannah actually gasped. Again. I stood up. Not fast, not showy, just confident. And I looked out at this sea of shocked, confused, humbled faces. People who once laughed at me, dismissed me, erased me. Now they were clapping. Some of them were clapping because they felt they had to. Some of them were clapping because they were genuinely amazed. But all of them, every single one, was clapping for the woman they used to treat like she was invisible. I didn't make a speech. I just said, "Thanks for being here. Let's eat." And that was enough. Later that night, when the kids were roasting marshmallows and the adults were half tipsy off the top shelf wine I provided, I had a line of people waiting to chat. My cousin Hannah again, this time with a fake teary smile. I've always admired how independent you are. My brother, who hadn't texted me in 3 years, we should really catch up sometime. Even my mom tried to act sentimental. I knew you'd turn out special. I always believed in you. I looked her right in the eyes and said, "No, Mom, you didn't, but I did." And that was enough. And then came him, my Uncle Rick, the guy who once said at a family dinner, "If Alana keeps playing with computers and colors, she'll end up a starving artist." He handed me a glass of wine and gave this awkward little chuckle. "So, maybe you can give me a few investment tips, huh?" I raised an eyebrow. "You mean from my coloring book business?" His face turned redder than the Cabernet. I said nothing else, just clinked my glass and walked off into the firelight, leaving him there to stew in his own awkwardness. And in that moment, I realized something important. It wasn't about revenge. It was about recognition. I didn't need to make them feel small. I just needed to remind myself I was never small to begin with. They kicked me out of family events because they couldn't box me in. They tried to shrink me down to fit their version of success. But I outgrew the box. I outgrew them. And when they finally looked up, they saw someone they didn't even recognize anymore. Someone who didn't beg, didn't chase, didn't wait for permission to shine. And I wasn't finished yet, because the biggest reveal, the one that would shake everything they thought they knew, was still coming. The reunion weekend wrapped up with a farewell brunch. All soft music and mimosas and people pretending they'd always been this close to me. Like I hadn't spent years watching them post photos from parties I wasn't invited to. Like I hadn't celebrated Christmas alone one year while they all smiled for group shots under twinkling lights. But I wasn't mad anymore because I had one more surprise. One that would finally pull the curtain all the way back. I had set up a small thank you presentation at the end of brunch. Nothing flashy, just a slideshow and a few parting words. But instead of the slideshow showing cheesy old family photos like they expected, the screen flickered and cut to a short documentary-style video. It opened with the title, "The Girl They Overlooked." Cue a dramatic pause. Then a voiceover, my voice, came in. They said I wasn't like them, that I was too different, too quiet, too ambitious, too weird, too me. As the footage played, it showed the timeline of everything I'd built. My design studio in downtown Seattle, now a multi-million-dollar branding firm. Clips from the tech startup I'd invested in before it blew up. Headlines from Forbes and Fast Company featuring my name. Snapshots of the scholarships I funded anonymously. And finally, the trust I'd created to help young women from underserved communities break into tech and design careers. My aunt dropped her fork. My cousin whispered, "Is this real?" And my mom? She looked like she had just been hit by every single year she tried to pretend I didn't matter. When the video ended, I stepped up to the mic. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I just said, "I used to think I needed your approval to belong here. But now I realize I created my own table. And this entire weekend, this wasn't to show you what you missed. It was to remind me of how far I've come. Not despite you, because of you." The silence was so loud. Then, slowly, people started clapping. Some hesitant, some awkward. A few, like my younger cousin Ella, genuinely moved. But it didn't matter. I wasn't there for the applause. I was there to close a chapter. Later, as people began to pack up and say their goodbyes, a few tried one last shot. "Hey, maybe we can do a family trip next summer. You in? You should come to Thanksgiving this year. We'll cook your favorites." I smiled politely. "I'll think about it." And then I left. I didn't storm out. I didn't wait for a dramatic exit. I just walked down the lake path to my car, the same luxury SUV they thought was a rental when I pulled up 2 days ago. As I slid behind the wheel, I took one last look at the lake house, the same place I once cried outside of because I wasn't invited to Aunt Val's birthday there. But this time, I didn't cry. I turned up the music, put on my sunglasses, and drove off, not looking back. You know what no one ever tells you? Success is loud, but peace? Peace is quieter. It's not the clapping or the headlines or even the, "Wow, you've changed" moments. It's being able to walk away, with your head high, your pockets full, and your heart light. They kicked me out of every family event because they couldn't imagine me ever being more than the artsy one in the corner. But now, I'm richer than all of them combined, not just in money, in freedom, in clarity, in self-worth. They gave me silence. I built an empire, and I hope they remember that every time they scroll past my name. Because I'm not the black sheep anymore. I'm the golden one. And this time, they don't get a seat at my table.